Hey guys, my name is Lana. Welcome back to my channel. I don't have a lot of time to do this because today is New Year's Eve and it's the biggest, day for us. There's a lot of cleaning and cooking and it's 10:30 a.m. I have a little time to do this and then I have to run and do all kinds of things. Okay, so last night I tried to come up with answers for these questions because I knew that in the moment I would not think of anything, and this was really hard, okay? How many books did you read? Did you meet your goal? I finished 179. I'm currently in the middle of Still Like an Artist, which is only like 100 pages long, and I got to page 50 last night, so I'm gonna try to finish it today. So hopefully by the end of today it will be 180. Last time I mentioned how many books I read this year. I got like a lot of like, that's so awesome, good for you. Don't congratulate me on this. Most read genre. I hated this question just because there are so many books that are under different genres. Like there are books that I read that are romance, but they're also fantasy. So is it under romance or under fantasy? And then nonfiction has different kinds of subgenres. Do I count those or just say nonfiction? And it was just a little convoluted trying to count those, but I try. So nonfiction got the most, but that's just because I did not break that down into the subgenres of nonfiction. I didn't like this question because I cannot give you like the exact amount. Like there are some books that I don't even know where to include this. I don't know, it's weird. Longest and shortest books I read. The shortest one was Interlude with Tattoos by KJ Charles. This is part of the A Charm of Magpies series. It's like a little novella after the first book. And the longest book was Warm Storm by Victoria Aveyard. This is the fourth book in the Red Queen series. I really liked the beginning of the Red Queen series. Like I loved the first book. With every book my love for the series diminished, and this one was just like, let's just finish the series and read this and forget it ever existed. Favorite book published in 2020. This was tough. I decided to go with two. Fatal Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum and Slippery Creatures by KJ Charles. Very different books, but I liked both of them. A favorite debut book in 2020. Not a lot. I only read two books that were debut, and I went with Kevin Van Wy that wrote Save Me, Bryson Keller. This was his first book. He's a South African writer and his own voices. That book was so good. It's a fun romance, yes, but also outside of the relationship of these two boys, there is the rest of the world, and there is a coming out story in there, and there is bullying, and it's just, it felt very genuine and real, and it was hard to read at times, and I really appreciated this book. And in the end of the book, the author does give a little note about why he included the the coming out scenario that he did include, and it was just very great. Favorite book not published this year. I think most of the books in my top 10 books of 2020 were not published in 2020, so any of those, but I decided to go with Curse So Dark and Lonely. A book that lived up to the hype. Judging by what I wrote in my notes, I was really tired at this point, so I just started listing things because I could not choose. So it's Six of Crows, Curse So Dark and Lonely, Home After Dark, Frankenstein, Assassin's Apprentice, A Room of One's Own, and I stopped there. A book that did not live up to the hype. I put two books under this one, and this might be a bit controversial. Hear me out. I loved these two books. I really enjoyed them, yes. But with the first one, The Secret History, I think it was so hyped. Like it was hyped to a degree that I don't even know what kind of book it has to be to live up to that hype. So many people say it's their favorite book ever. It's the book they come back to time and time again. And I enjoyed the book, but when I finished it, I did not feel that kind of like so yeah, I enjoyed it, but was it everything everyone told me it would be? No, it was great. It's just, you know, it's not my favorite book ever. And the second one, it went the opposite way in terms of, you know, I read it first. Not that I read it like I was the first one to read it, but I didn't hear a lot about it before I read it. And that was The Bear and the Nightingale. I really enjoyed it. It was a great book. But then hearing other people, just a lot of people on my feed in Instagram and people on YouTube, and the reaction to this book is like, oh my god, this is incredible. This is a 5-star book. This is like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I just didn't feel that when I was reading. Like, I enjoyed the book, but I never felt like, this is the best thing I've ever read in my life. I feel like they did not live up to the hype, but maybe it's just they were not books that were meant for me. Book that felt like the biggest accomplishment. So yesterday I finished The Artist Way. Finally, there's like such a big break between week 11 and week 12. Week 11 probably was in October. But yeah, I took a break, but I did finish the book before the new year, and actually reading the last chapter the last week of the book right before the new year was sort of wonderful. That one took a lot of commitment. It's incredible, and I feel like it changed a lot for me, but it was also tough. It's not just a book that you read, it's a book that you commit to for at least 12 weeks, or like me, like almost 6 months to read and do the activities, the tasks, and trust it. And there were certain things that I didn't want to go into when it says to go into those things. And of course the book also taught me, you know, to recognize whenever you feel resistance to do something and question why do you feel that resistance. And whenever I felt a resistance to do a certain task, it was because I knew that that task would open a can of worms, and I just wanted that to be hidden away and not think about it. And a lot of cans ended up being opened during The Artist Way. A lot of tears were shed, a lot of like revelations happened, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful journey, and I do recommend this book to everyone. I do plan to do it all over again, maybe not next year, but the year after that, and sort of to continue going back to the book and to the 12 weeks every 2 years, just to make sure that I keep practicing the things that it mentions. Another accomplishment was finishing Daughter of the Forest, just because there was a moment in like the middle of it where I just felt like I couldn't go on. The deal with Daughter of the Forest is that it's not a book you read fast. And if, you know, the number of books that I mentioned that I read this year tells you anything, is that I read a lot of books very fast. Not necessarily because I'm a fast reader, but because I listened to a lot of audiobooks, like a lot of audiobooks, and I listened to them on double speed, and it almost became like a sport. And there were days when I would go through like 3 audiobooks in a day and just feel so accomplished and like remember nothing of those books later on. And this book, I could not find the audiobook for this book, so I could not speed up the process of going through this book in any way. I had to sit down, open it, and read the tiny, tiny, tiny font that it has to finish this book. I do credit this book for making me slow down. I did want to finish this book before the end of the year, and I think it was in the beginning of December or end of November where I sort of put any other book on hold, and I would just made the rule that I'm not gonna pick anything else up until I finish this book. And it took me not too long, but it was like a solid week of me reading a little bit every day and that was the closest I came to the way I was reading before this terrible year. And I do credit this book for making me slow down and help me now have like a better perspective and actually look forward to sitting down with a book and enjoying it little by little. And it's okay that I don't finish them super fast and that I have to read the same book for like a week or 2 weeks. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't know why I felt differently. Favorite character, I wrote just a bunch of names. I did love Harper from Curses for Dark and Lonely. I thought she was a badass. She is funny, she is fierce, and she is just loved her. Oliver from Oliver from Boyfriend Material. It was really late when I wrote this. I also wrote just Will. Who is Will? There are a lot of Wills that I read about this year. I don't know if, is that Will from Dark is the Night series or Will Darling? I think I meant Will Darling from Slippery Creatures. I thought he was awesome. Least favorite character. The leading character of Melmoth. Just very blah. Again, I just wrote down some names and I don't know who these people are anymore. Drew from Junkie because he was sexist. The Duke in Bringing Down the Duke. Oh. Most shocking book or moment. One of the most shocking twists I read was in The Silent Patient. I was ironing clothes, which is one of my favorite pastimes. It's just so calming, you know, and it's warm and you literally make wrinkles go away and leave a smooth cloth and then you fold it nicely. It makes me feel so happy. It's so lame. But I was listening to the audiobook while I was ironing and I almost dropped the iron because I was so shocked. And I ran to my sister and I was just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And she thought I like hurt myself and she's like, did you burn your hand? Just like, no, no, no. And I just told her the whole plot of the book because I needed to share it with someone. Then Home Before Dark. So many shocking moments. So many shocking moments. Incredible. Lock Every Door. Again, there's a twist that happens and you think you figured out everything, but then there's another twist and you're like, oh, I was so wrong. I just really like that. And the other book, this is not a fun book to read. It's very academic and scientific and it's very dense. Reading it with my eyes proved very difficult, so I actually listened to the audiobook and then I would just come back and reread the things that I wanted to reread. The things this says, he never tells you what he thinks and what is like right or wrong. He just tells you what different people in different times thought and the research that they were basing their conclusions on. I didn't really care about part 1, cholesterol. I cared a lot about the sugar one and the carbohydrates one. It blew my mind and it also scared me so much. I am terrified of white bread and sugar, and even though I did not completely cut them out of my life, every time I eat them, I'm like very aware of everything that this book taught me. This book shocked me to my core. The battery is flashing at me. Favorite couple or OTP, Will and Kim from Will Darling series, James and Will from Dark is the Night series, Abigail and Charlie from Jack V series, Jesper and Wylan from Six of Crows. And I did want to include Sorsha and the guy that she ends up with in the end, but she's like 14 or 15 in the end when she gets married, and I'm still not okay with that. The best written book you read this year. When I was looking through the titles for this one, I realized that I kind of like when I don't notice the writing. When the writing is in a way that it's not pulling my attention, like I'm just reading this story and I care about this story and I don't really need flowery words for it. But I did want to mention All Boys Aren't Blue. The storytelling in this book was incredible. Daughter of the Forest, again. Whoa. Penelope by Margaret Atwood. I like that she says a lot with few words. A Fatal Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. I want to mention this one because it is funny at times. She does make fun of some of the names in ancient Rome, and the way she tells the stories is sort of lighthearted and fun, but I never felt like she was disrespectful to history, to that time, if that makes sense. And it was and she also talked obviously about pretty difficult things, and the whole chapter on slavery was just so hard to read. So I think it's a great skill to have, to combine a lighthearted and fun tone with heavier topics in a way that would not, you know, make fun or diminish the people you're talking about. And Monster Calls, again, it's a very short book and with few words, so much is said, and I really appreciate that. Book that you pushed the most people to read in 2020, I don't know. I mean, Rosie bought the Penelope head after I talked about it, so that one. Oh, and I mentioned the Faithful Executioner ones, and I got a lot of responses for that one, and I'm doing a buddy read for it. So join us if you want to. Let me know. I will add you to the group chat. We're doing it on the weekend of the 15th, 16th, 17th of January. One of those days. We've yet to decide on the specific day, but if you want to join us, please do. Favorite book cover of the year. It hurts my soul to name it, but Melmoth. This is why I picked up the book, because it's so beautiful. I like this cover so much, and I hated the book so much. Glass Hotel, I thought it was so beautiful, and I initially thought this was like a murder mystery book, and for a murder mystery book, that would be such a beautiful cover, but it's actually just fiction, and I don't know. I Shed Last, if I'm not mistaken, the like hardback version, the gold like sparkles on the book cover, and I like how minimalistic it is, and I love the colors. I just think it's beautiful. Favorite book adaptation, not a lot to pick from. I've read some books that have a movie made from them, but I either did not like the movie, The Shining, or I didn't watch it, so I don't really have much to say. But I finally did read the book that inspired I Love, Simon, and I kind of liked the movie more. Well, my camera died, so we're just gonna continue on my phone. What book made you cry the most? The Artist's Way, but that's not so much about the actually words in the book, but more the tasks that I had to do for each chapter. Lord of the Rings, a lot of like ugly crying when I finished the whole series. Monster Calls, already mentioned. Well, Stay Sexy and Don't Get Murdered. Some of the stories that they tell in this book are just heartbreaking. Faithful Executioner, in the very end, I definitely teared up a little bit just thinking of poor Franz. The Music of What Happens, definitely teared up on that one. I feel like more people need to read that book. Kind of like that discovery you have in a relationship when you sort of realize that, oh, it's not going to be like a traumatized person in the relationship, the weak person in the relationship, and the other taking care of them. It's oh, we both have trauma, we both have terrible things that have happened or, you know, are part of our lives, and they're very different, but we both need support, and that's something we can do in a relationship. It's not just one person suffering and the other helping them. It's you're always going to be both suffering in some way, and it's about finding a way to support each other and help each other, while also not neglecting your own suffering, and learning how to ask for help and recognize when you need support and when you can give it to someone else. It's just, oh, that book was lovely. What book made you laugh the most? Stay Sexy and Don't Get Murdered. I remember going, I was commuting somewhere listening to the audiobook and I cried from laughter at a bus stop. I just remember scaring people because I was laughing and crying at the same time. This is going to hurt again. I mean, the topic is not always funny, but the way he tells stories is funny. Boyfriend Material, so funny. Act Like a Lady. This is a book, I don't think I mentioned it this year. It's written by the host of one of my favorite podcasts ever, The Lady Gang. It's just, they're hilarious and it's a very funny book. A new favorite author you discovered this year, Riley Sager. I read 3 books out of his 4 books that are out. I gave 2 of those books 5 stars, which I think is pretty awesome. And Kelly McGonigal. I think I read like 3 books by her as well. Love her. A guilty pleasure read of the year. I really don't want to feel guilty about any kind of reading I do, so I don't want to answer this question, but instead I will make up a new question. What is the steamiest book I read this year? And that is by far The Other Book by Ro Horvat. Horvat. Favorite book you reread this year? Lord of the Rings. What is the best nonfiction book you read this year? I'm gonna go with The Artist's Way because I mentioned a lot of other nonfiction books already on this channel, but because I just finished The Artist's Way, I can finally talk about it, and I'm gonna choose The Artist's Way. Were you happy with your reading year? So. I feel like, again, I'm not happy that there were a lot of good books that got lost under this giant pile that I just felt like I needed to read. And I think I learned a lot about myself and how I want to be reading, and I don't think I will ever use, read more books as a goal again, because I sort of felt like, what is the extreme of that? This year was the extreme of that, and it didn't give me a feeling of accomplishment. Like, I don't feel like I did something wonderful by reading so many books. I feel guilty for not remembering all of them. I feel sad that I would need to reread some of them to even remember what they're about. And I don't think that's a good way to treat books. So much effort and blood and tears goes into every single book that we read that I feel like by giving it my full attention, I'm sort of honoring the work of the author, and I would like to read slower next year. With reading less books will come more intentional reading. I'm just rambling now. I have a lot of things to do today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being with me this year. This probably won't come out until the new year because I don't know if I can edit this today. But anyway, thank you so much for supporting me, for being here. Happy New Year. I will see you in my next video.